Welcome back to Mindful Gains. I'm Bryce, and in this video, I want to talk about ego and how it may be holding you back in your life without you even realizing it. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's first talk about exactly what ego is. So ego is how we self-identify. It's the idea that we have of ourselves. So that idea that we have of ourselves was developed at a very young age. It was developed from the movies we've seen, the music we've listened to, our parents, the environment we've grown up in. All those key components play into developing our ego and this idea that we have of ourselves. Our ego may hold us back in our relationships, may hold us back at work, may hold us back in all different types of ways in our lives. And the way that our ego tends to hold us back is anytime that idea that we have of ourselves is attacked, disrespected, anytime we got to prove something, it's usually coming from a place of ego. It's usually coming from that place where that idea that you have of yourself, it's being attacked in a way where now you have to defend yourself. And the reason that that can be, quote unquote, a bad thing is if we lean into it too much, that's when it can start to cause problems. Ultimately, our ego is there to protect us. It's to keep us from experiencing shame. It's to keep us from feeling that sense of embarrassment. It's there to protect us in a way and to shield us from perceived threats and stuff like that. If somebody's attacking me, I need to get back at them and let them know, hey, you're disrespecting me. You're treating me this way and don't ever do that again. Now, of course, there's healthy ways to do that, boundary setting and stuff like that, and let people know how they should be treating you. Ego is very fragile. Ego don't like to be disrespected. It doesn't like to be treated a certain type of way. Anytime you feel that rise within you, where it's like, I got to go back at this person and make sure that they understand that what they just did is incorrect. And it's usually that idea that you have of yourself that's been attacked. So now it's like you got to make a point to make things right. And that's another thing about ego. It always feels like it has to be right. So when we come from that place of ego and we feel like we always have to prove something to somebody, we always have to make sure that that person understands that they're wrong, that their point of view is wrong. That's a lot of ego. So you can kind of see the trend and where I'm going with this, how that can cause a lot of problems in our relationships and in our interpersonal dynamic, if that makes any sense. I'll give an example of this. I was at the gym one day, right? And I was using one of the flat benches to do some dumbbell bench press. When I'm in the gym, I'll do a set and then I'll kind of float around the gym sometimes to kind of, take a breather to reset before I jump into my next set. Now, there was a dude who I noticed was kind of sitting on the preacher curl machine behind me. I thought he was just kind of chilling out, waiting to jump into another, a different part of his workout or whatever. I really wasn't paying too much attention to him. But ultimately, I walked around the gym and I did this a couple times. And when I came back, this dude had moved to the bench that I was using. Now, my cell phone, my water bottle was still there. And it was a moment for me where I was like, all right, now how am I going to handle this? I can just go right to the dude and tell him, hey, bro, I wasn't done with that yet. You clearly can see my phone and my water bottle is sitting there. And I had to really take a moment here because I could feel that internal rise in me where I felt like I had to let this dude know, hey, what you're doing is incorrect. You're taking it upon yourself to take hold of this bench that I'm not done with yet. So there's that kind of internal battle that I was dealing with in that moment. But on the flip side of that, I took the time and I really had to slow down and be like, Bryce, you're walking around the gym, taking your time with the bench as if nobody else wants to use it. So I had to kind of change the perspective and understand that that dude might have thought that I was done with it. Even if my phone and water bottle was there, I give him the benefit of the doubt. He might have thought, hey, this guy's done. Or he might have just gotten impatient and just grabbed the bench and said, fuck it, I'm going to go ahead and use this. Either way, I can't control what that guy was thinking and what made him grab the bench. All I can control is my reaction. And I had to take the time to slow down to make sure that my reaction did not come from that place of ego. That I did not come from that place of feeling so disrespected that I had to check this dude. I slowed down, I chilled out, I walked over to the bench, grabbed my stuff, and kind of just walked away like, all right, you got it, bro. And I know some people may look at that as like, man, you should have checked him, you should have told him you weren't done with it and this and that. But ultimately, man, that would have been a bunch of energy and a bunch of, mental resources that I wasn't really prepared to utilize in that moment. It wasn't really even that big a deal, honestly. So that was just an example of when I really felt that sting and how I chose to handle it in that moment. So now that I've discussed ego a little bit, what it is, it's how we identify. How does that actually hold us back? Well, when ego is kind of taking hold and driving the car, we're coming from a place of like protecting ourselves. We're coming from that place of keeping people away and making sure they understand how to treat us. It's really about I. It's not coming from that authentic place of understanding somebody else's perspective, understanding that somebody else is in their own journey, in their own storyline and stuff like that. So the ego, like I've said a couple times, it likes to protect us, but it can protect us in certain instances where we don't really need to be protected. And the ego is like that. It can be that internal voice sometimes talking to us. It's not always trying to be in fight mode. It could also be like, hey, yo, you're not good enough to do that. Why are you even trying to do something like that? You're not good enough to do that. You're about to fail. Why even put in the energy to do that? The ego can do that too. Ego don't like change. Ego likes to be comfortable, complacent, chill. Don't be trying to take me out of my comfort zone. That's how the ego works. How that can be detrimental to us is if we let that voice and those thoughts take hold of us and kind of lead our lives in a way. How do we prevent that from happening? How do we prevent the ego from taking hold and leading our lives? Well, what works for me is implementing meditation. And here's why. So meditation, a lot of people think it's sitting down with your legs crossed, all this stuff like that. Really what meditation is the practice of learning to observe your thinking, learning to observe your thoughts. Because a lot of us, myself included in the past, I used to get wrapped up in my thoughts. I used to be a severe overthinker and whatever I thought was truth. So I had to really learn and start to practice with the help of meditation that not everything I think is true. So meditation, the more I practice, the more you start noticing like, oh snap, I'm not getting wrapped up in whatever I'm thinking about right now. I let it come and I let it go. I'll think about something and it's like, it doesn't take hold of the moment. So whatever internal dialogue or inner critic, whatever that annoying voice in there is saying, it wasn't necessarily taking hold of every moment in my life anymore. Meditation was probably one of the major helpful practices that I implemented to help me get a hold on being so egoic in my life, because I definitely came from a place of ego, especially when I was a lot younger. But ultimately, learning to put your awareness on your ego, like when something happens to you and you feel that instant, like I need to react right now. I need to put this person in their place. Just learning to slow down and be aware of where that's coming from and exactly what's going on in any given moment is very helpful, because it's probably coming from your ego, but it's hard to catch sometimes, especially because we're so used to reacting to it. So there's so much momentum behind it, it's hard to slow it down and be like, oh, let me chill out for a minute, let me breathe, and let me try and figure out exactly what I'm being presented with here so I don't overreact. So that's very key, is putting that awareness on ego. And it's usually when you're disrespected, when you're trying to prove yourself, when you're trying to make sure that that person knows that they're wrong, their opinion is wrong, my opinion is right, you need to listen to me. That's all ego. I also want to give a quick shout out to actualized.org, another one called Julia Christina Counseling. Both of those channels talk about ego and how it affects us in our lives, how it can hold us back, how it prevents us from getting to where we want to get. I really think you should check out both of those channels if you're into this type of stuff. They really were helpful in helping me craft this video and giving me some great insight. I just wanted to make this quick video. Hopefully it provided you with some value. If it did, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you check out some of my other videos I think you're really enjoying. All right, I'm out.